I wanted to turn our attention towards another incredible event that's happening. I mean, we are living in some incredible times. Last month, also, President Erdogan in the Turkish regime, if you will, they were overtaken by a military coup, only to be retaken over 24 hours later. And all sorts of crazy speculation. It's, now all of a sudden, Erdogan's got the power to, just throw anyone in jail that he wants. And he's really been able to kind of see who his enemies are. But at the same time, there's so much speculation about really what was behind this event. At first, when I first heard it, I thought, wow, man, this is awesome. This is a good thing. Until, again, you found out 24 hours later it was all over. But what do you make of this situation? I mean, there's so much going on, and there's so many implications.
Yeah, well, I had the same emotions. I went through the same emotions as you did, because I also thought it was a good thing first, because Erdogan is not a good guy. So what I'm going to say now, you might think I think he is a good guy, but he's not. I mean, he's definitely not a good guy. His son is clearly a corrupt man who has been making a lot of money on buying oil for 30% of the value from ISIS, oil that ISIS have been stealing from Iraq. Yeah.
Yep.
So clearly it's he's a really bad man, and he has been helping the so-called moderate rebels, which basically is ISIS, to fight Assad in Syria, together with Israel and Qatar and Saudi Arabia and weapons from United States. So obviously he's not exactly my cup of tea. Then there is his biggest opponent is a gentleman called Gülen or something like that. Gülen or I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he actually lives, I believe, in a CIA facility in Langley or somewhere in one of the CIA bases.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
You can't make it up, man. You just can't make it up. But then, he's more of a Sharia law type of character. That's he's backed by the CIA, which is something you would have think that United States wouldn't support. But why are they supporting Saudi Arabia, which has Wahhabism, which is a degenerate form of Islam? Wahhabism was created by a gentleman called Hemfer, who worked for the East India Company, and he was an Englishman, together with an Arab called Wahhab, and they started this Wahhabism. They basically took the Quran and said, Quran is too peaceful, there's nothing going on, let's make it crazy, and they did. They rewrote the Quran. They invested a lot of money in this Wahhab. He was not a noble family, so they hooked up with the Saud family, and he then became the royal family. So the Saud family and this Mr. Wahhab and this English gentleman Hemfer, they basically started the Wahhabism, and we know what's going on down there. It's beheadings, women can't drive a car, it's torture, it's human rights infringements everywhere, left, right, and center. So it's nothing new in the United States supporting regimes like that. And you can take Central America and South America, country by country, and around 72 times, last time I read was 72 times the CIA has been instigating coups in foreign countries since they started just after the Second World War.
Wow.
We would really like CIA to stop now. We really want. I go with John F. Kennedy, and when I say I think CIA should be split in atoms.
Yep, exactly.
They have not done anything good for the world whatsoever, and they have not done anything good for the American people either. They are just a tool for the super rich to be able to loot the world, and it doesn't even benefit the Americans. It does not. It goes into their offshore accounts anyway. So the Americans get the bill for all the military bases and all the soldiers, and then these super rich people who owns the central banks and the banks and so on, they can then loot the world. So for example, take Iraq. Yeah, the countries, the wars in Iraq has cost the American taxpayer billion. And that, of course, a big part of that has been weapon and services from U.S. corporations. So U.S. corporations, they make $6,000 billion. Mm-hmm. Then they have stolen oil from Iraq for $2,000. And that does not go to the American taxpayer. So you invest $6,000 in paying these people to go out and loot the resources of another country. And you don't even get any of that either. So you're helping people to loot other nations. And the American people don't even get it. It is insane, and it has to stop.
And it's happening here too with Turkey. It's long been speculated that the CIA has infiltrated Turkish military, Turkish police, and now it looks like they want to try to get their guy in. It sounds like the U.S. no longer wants Erdogan in there, and so it seems like it's very likely that this coup could have been CIA driven. Maybe they were the ones behind it. Maybe not. I've heard that maybe there's going to be another coup that will be the CIA one, and maybe this one really was from Erdogan to find who his enemies were. But either way, there's no way of officially knowing from our perspective. It's something that.
But what we can do is we can look at what happened and the events that unfolded. So first of all, you had Erdogan clearly supporting the CIA, supporting USA, supporting Saudi Arabia, supporting the so-called moderate rebels, the ISIS. You had his son stealing the oil. He was clearly one of USA's good guys. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, what happened was some rogue Turkish soldier, not something Erdogan would want to do. But nevertheless, he shot down a Russian airplane last year. And to begin with, Erdogan didn't want to apologize. So the Russians, I think I believe what happened was the United States wanted to try to provoke Russia to start a World War III. That's what I think. But the thing is, Putin is not exactly stupid. So obviously, what he did was, instead of starting a World War III, he just condemned the attack and said there would be consequences, immediately stopped all flights to Turkey. And Turkey is very close by Russia, and all the rich people in Russia like to fly to Turkey to have a holiday. So all of a sudden, they had a huge downturn. Whole hotels only catering for Russians. So all of a sudden, they're out of business. And you have all this, I think it was a gas pipeline going through Turkey. All of a sudden, that stopped as well. And all these straits, and it meant a huge money for Turkey. Huge loss. So all of a sudden, a few weeks before the coup, Erdogan decided to go out and officially apologize to Russia, and to all of a sudden start working with Russia in stopping the war. And he also publicly said that he was no longer against Assad being in charge of Syria. Right. So that's a 180 degree round turn. So to imagine, even for someone who has never heard about false flag operations, but to imagine that a government that has made 72 coups since 1945, you don't need a lot of imagination to think that they wouldn't try a 73rd time. Come on. You don't have to, right? Hello, So clearly, and if you are a president of a country, you don't become president of a country because you're stupid, and you don't become president of a country because you're naive. Yeah. So if you are best friends with the United States, and all of a sudden you decide to go against them, and this is a country that has made 72 coups since 1945, maybe you are not maybe, for sure you are considering an option that United States would try to get rid of you. You would of course imagine that as a possibility. So that means that for sure Erdogan has instructed his secret agencies to look out for any anomalies and to eavesdrop on all the military soldiers, all the soldiers and the generals and officers in the military, to find out if any of those guys were planning a coup, of course. So maybe he found out himself. It could also be, as some articles suggest, that Russian intelligence, they apparently have some huge eavesdropping facilities in Syria now. And there's some stories that they actually helped him out. And if you look at the reaction from Erdogan straight after the coup was foiled, was immediately thanking Russia and immediately agreeing to meet Putin first thing in August, one of these days. So, I mean, there was some kind of, in the way that he acted was out of gratitude to Putin, right? And then there's a third option, which I've been thinking about, is maybe some people in the CIA, within the CIA, are fed up with this. Maybe not all people in CIA thought it was such a great thing what was done in Libya, for example.
Yeah.
And what was something that most people don't understand is that the United States is very different from European old nations in Europe, like Denmark. I like to say Denmark, but also, of course, England and France and Portugal. All the colonial powers, right? We are very centralistic in terms of we know who is acting on our behalf in foreign policy. But United States is different in that way. You have 10 different secret agencies. You have the president, you have the foreign office, you have the State Department. You have so many. I should look it up. I should know it better next time I speak to you. But you have at least 7 or 8 different entities that can act on United States' behalf. So what I read recently was that Obama didn't want to make these hostilities in Libya and help 5,000 so-called moderate rebels, but in fact it was ISIS, into Libya and to fight in Libya and to kill Gaddafi. Obama didn't want to do it, but Hillary did it on her own through the State Department. She did it on her own. So you have the United States. You have people saying go left, and they have people saying go right, and so that means that Gaddafi, he was so surprised. You see his last speeches that you have heard. Telephone conversations with Tony Blair that has been out on the internet. You can clearly hear he's not suspecting anything, because if you talk to 7 different agencies in the United States and they all ensure him that nothing is going to happen, but you don't speak with Hillary Clinton's State Department, right? Then you can understand why Gaddafi was taken by surprise. So I'm saying, if that is the case, why couldn't you have 90% of CIA wanted to get rid of Erdogan, but then you had a little tiny part of CIA who says, you know what? We are helping ISIS. We are killing people left, right, and center. 4 million Muslims since 2001. I think it's about time we stop this atrocity. You could have some good people in the CIA who have been maybe revealing a few things to Erdogan. And another thing that points to that it is a CIA coup was that one of the senior CIA people was in a hotel a few days before the coup, where he had a lot of meetings with some different important people down there. So, I mean, everything points to that it was a coup. And obviously, Erdogan is doing what anybody would do. He uses this as an opportunity to go into the military and get rid of anybody who is against him, right? Yeah, you can't blame him for that.
No, you can't. It's very fascinating because, Turkey's always been the one part of the world that seems to always be going back and forth and back and forth. I mean, it's kind of in the center of it all, and it always has been, and it's no different now. I mean, it's almost like a biblical prophecy coming to pass. It's just crazy to watch it unfold, though.